Okay, good morning, and thank you so much to distinguished delegates and also my colleagues for inviting the trade logistic branch to the course. And now I am going to cover the gender aspect of supply chain. Usually we don't integrate that together, but you will see that why it's important to include more women in supply chain. So why, I will cover three parts. So the first one is why we need to include more women in supply chain. The second is how we can do it. And the third is the way forward. So how we, all you as delegates, you can contribute to that. So the first one is now we are talking about supply chain a lot, especially with all the geopolitical situations, the disruption. We had COVID, what is happening in the Panama Channel, and also many transit points in the world that have been affected by the war, by different wars. So supply chain is really a very trendy topic now and very important. And you have seen that, but what is supply chain? So first is a complex cross-border organization of the structured industries, networks that include transport and the delivery of goods and services. And that is why what happened, for example, in Panama can affect China, and also the issue with Greenland. So supply chain is everywhere, and what happened in one point in the world affects the others. But it's not only geography. It's also, and you can see, it's a tangled network of procedures. So this is what is supply chain when we only look at the stakeholders. What you see here is just to move one consignment from one port to another. And this is all, we have counted that over 50 people, 50 different agencies cover all of this, and we have here over 100 procedures, just in one movement of one container. So how gender landed in this situation is, first, is that supply chain, we know that is the vein of trade. And almost 80% of trade in volumes move by ship. And according to our last research, that is the review of maritime transport, that I invite you to look because it gives you the latest trends in maritime transport and supply chain, we have seen that only 16% of the workforce are women. And if we look at the people working on the ships, only 1% are women. There are different reasons, especially safety. But we also see that in ports, there is a minority of leadership by women. So we can see that trade, the logistic part of trade, not the people that trade, but really the person that logistic, the seafarers, is very male-dominated. And it's very difficult for women to go inside this industry. But now there is an issue, because and Maria Angela will cover that, but with e-commerce, everything that is happening now, for example, only to build this fund, you need many different inputs. Trade is becoming more important, and we will have more ships and more ports and more movement. And ANTAD has forecast that almost 90,000 more posts will be open by this year. And there is not enough people to cover that. On the other hand, we have many women that need jobs and that can contribute to that. But unfortunately, there are not the conditions for women to jump into this sector. And here, I wanted to give you a real example of what is happening in supply chain and gender and how women are discriminated on the ground. Last year, we went to borders in Latin America, between Peru and Ecuador and Peru and Bolivia. And we asked them, for first, what is trade facilitation? We cover actually the regulatory part, trade facilitation. before that, I wanted to give you at the concept of trade facilitation. Here you can see that in supply chain, there are different, we say, documentation and transactions. So you go from buy, then the transport, the ship, to pay. So trade facilitation mainly covers this regulatory part, the part that are, for example, the procedures with customs, the inspections, having all the certificates from different agencies, for example, agriculture, veterinary. So when we went to this border post, we talked to many women, especially women traders, micro, small, medium-sized enterprises, mainly run by women. But we also, and that was we said, the added value of this study, that we also cover the situation of women working in the government and being in the border post. And we asked them about the situation. So here are the findings. So first, we saw that the 3 countries that we cover, Peru, Bolivia, and Ecuador, they had special regimes for women traders. That means that women traders had facilities to export, to cross-border. Well, to export, because, to participate in international trade. For example, they were sometimes exonerated of depending on the amount of the consignment, of paying the duties, or they have, for example, simplified procedures. But what was incredible is that almost 60% of these women didn't know about that. So they didn't use it. What is really sad, because there were in some countries, I think it was Bolivia, they have like 3 regimes, especially for women. Any of these women, well, 60% of these women didn't know about these regimes, so they went through the typical procedure. And when we asked them which were the main obstacles that they face, well, the first one was limited access to credit, but also that they struggle between domestic responsibilities and being a business owner. And here you can see that in this slide, that most of the women didn't know about these regimes. And what is the consequences of this is that, for example, even if these women, they were, because the problem in many of these borders is that they don't know about these, the procedures. Sometimes they go through the informal channel. But what is really sad of the situation was that even women that decided to go formally, that means that they declare they wanted to pay the duties, as they didn't know about the simplification process, the customs authority considered that they didn't comply and the goods were confiscated. So, in other words, for the women, there were not many options. Or they went informal, that means in the illegal trade, or, well, informal trade, sorry, not illegal, or they comply, but in any case, they couldn't comply with all the procedures because they didn't know this procedure exactly, so the goods were confiscated anyway. So there was a vicious circle. There is a vicious circle in this situation. And also another very important finding was that about harassment. We had a consultant that he was several weeks in borders, and we also have some testimonies from traders. Women are inspected more times than men. That means that even when women decide to be formal and go through the customs control, it's almost automatic that these women will be inspected if we compare to the men. And when we ask the women, do you feel harassment? Many of them, they were afraid to answer. And here is where the other part of the study is important, because we asked also the customs authority, the women customs authorities. They mean the women working at the borders. And the answers were really eye-opening. And here you can see. For the women officers, that means the customs officers that were women, for them, one of the main challenges was harassment. So these women, they could see the differentiation between the treatment that men and women are given at the borders. And we also asked the traders, what about e-commerce? Because we know that digitalization, and Maria Angela, we covered that, but we wanted to know if, okay, now that with COVID, in developing countries, especially in Latin America, now they can pay with the phone, and even the bus ticket, they pay it with a transaction, like Twin in Switzerland. But it was very unfortunate to see that almost 95%, they have mobile phone with internet. But only 12% use it for e-commerce. And not even for e-commerce. It was really only they use it as a phone to connect to the buyer on the other side of the border to say that, okay, I am leaving you the consignment today. That was the use that they have a phone. They didn't use all the potential that they had on the phone for the e-commerce. And it shows a lack of capacity building. These women need to be trained on e-commerce and how to take all the potential of these devices. Then, here comes also a very interesting finding, is when we ask the government official, do you feel, because we want more women at the borders. Why? Because we see that, for example, these women that were at the borders, they were the ones that had the courage to say there is harassment. Or they see things that the women traders, they are so afraid to say that these women that work for the governments, they are not afraid to say things. So we want more women at the borders, in the logistic part, at the ports, because they can actually represent women, female voices in these sectors. But we wanted to know about the working situation of these women. So we see here that the majority of them, according to the age, they think that between, here in the middle, you can see between 36 to 45 years old, they really believe that the conditions were not really good. And you can see that in the younger and in the middle-aged women, that they believe that the situations working at the border, they were not really attractive for women. And when we ask them, why? Why do you think that you will not work a lot in these positions? So the first reason was that it was very difficult to articulate the personal life with the professional life. And why? Because usually if you go to a border or you go to a port in any country, but especially in developing countries, first, you will struggle to find the most simple thing, a toilet for women. And we don't even talk about breastfeeding facilities. So these women, they don't see them in these border posts, or in the ports, or in any logistic part, or in the ships, because there are no facilities for them. Because it's almost everything is built for men. So it's very difficult for them to integrate these infrastructures, these sectors. And we also asked them, and that was, for many women, they mentioned this a lot. The second reason where they feel discriminated is for promotions. They felt that as they didn't have these facilities not to stay under these conditions, the management didn't see these women as a long-term staff. So if there was an opportunity for promotions, these women were not considered. And what was really sad is because we had a lot of interviews with them, is that they were really public servant. They have this vocacy of public servant, but they were discouraged by the environment that didn't support them. So the only way for these women to have promotion, it was to go to capital. They could not stay at the border because they know that if they stay at the border, they will not be promoted and the career will be stopped at one point. So what is the way forward? And here I would like to present what we have we are doing with countries. So first we have the Train for Trade port management program. And here this is given to all port authorities, people working at the port, but there are a lot of women that are encouraged to participate, and there is good results. Almost women that participated increased about 35% of the impact, and now they have leadership positions. Also, when you have women, you have also, and Gold mentioned, more investment on sustainability, on improvement of the services, and including also other women. We also have, this is quite new, the UNCTAD Global Supply Chain Forum. This is an UNCTAD initiative that brings together other agencies in the UN system. And we had the first one in Barbados 2 years ago, where we had a high-level session on women in supply chain. And here was very clear that there was a call to design supply chains from the very beginning with women as an important actor. We will have the second Global Supply Chain Forum this year, and we expect also to join forces with different agencies and to have to follow up on this call for women in supply chain. And in the trade facilitation part, we have also together, in addition to the courses that UNCTAD and gender is providing, we have one on trade facilitation and gender. And we also support governments because more and more they are having a special technical, we say, groups that look at gender and trade facilitation. So we are supporting them. And we also support with the monitoring of this initiative and this the initiative that countries have on gender and trade facilitation and trade policy. And with that, I would like to thank you. I don't know if I passed my time. Thank you so much.
No, you're actually